Hi, I'm Dave from Boyinaband.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how we put together my Skyline remix and how I performed it live. So first things first, I got the samples from the Skyline stems pack that I put together for the Skyline remix composition competition, which you can find here. And if this is the future, when the competition's already ended, that'll link to a random video of a tiger. I guess the first place to start is on the computer, so let's venture over there. So let me talk a little bit about the vocal samples and how I processed them. You can see I'm in Sonar here, which is what I decided to use for my vocals. I have got Reason, and I was initially going to do this with Reason. I even made this beat repeating, filtering vocal sample patch. You can see them all in NNXT there. But I found it was a lot easier in the end. I'm much more used to the workflow in Sonar, especially for stuttering. So let's talk a bit about the vocal processing. Firstly, I got all those samples from the stem pack and I chucked them straight into Sonar, put them in a folder to keep it nice and tidy, and muted them all. Then one at a time I unmuted them and figured out their place in the track. So you can see some are still muted because I didn't end up using them. And first one, let's have a look at Let's Go. Right here. I just changed that into the Go, and I did that with, it's here, the effects tricks. The way I apply it, if we open it up and take a look, really cool plugin, Effectrix, sorry. Most of these are off. I just click Chaos, and that puts loads of random ones in and just kind of see which ones go, no pun intended, with the sample, and that would have been a terrible pun if it was intended. Anyway, I've got this vinyl effect on it, which just, if you listen to the end of the sample, at the end, I think that was around here. That simply gave a turntable stop-like effect to the end of it. I've got this nice bit crushing effect on it. You can see how it's applied and the amount of distortion and the sample rate and bit crushing settings that I've used, and a bit of chorus to widen it up as well. And I've bounced it all down, as you can see. It's not applied. For Effectrix and Melodyne as well, I'll usually add all the effects, then copy the plugin, control-click, onto the clip, so it's on there as well. Exactly the same settings, then just bounce it down with the B button, and that's how I'll get the sample. And so you can hear when we take another listen that all the effects are on there even when that's not turned on. I've got a bit of delay and EQing, just bringing up the mids and the really high end to make that bit crushing really shine, and a limiter on there as well. Let's look at the next one. Got the Yeah, which is pretty simple stuff, just quite low in the mix, limited and delayed slightly, very slightly. And then I kept the volumes from this and chucked them straight onto the MPC, so I shouldn't have to worry about volume. Next up, we've got this Don't Hold Your Breath, which comes in later on. Don't hold your breath. You can hear there that breath part at the end sounds a bit unnatural. And the way I did that, if we move this one out the way, it was initially just this, but I cut it off around this point, and then bounced it down, hold control click, and just time stretched it. Then bounced it down again, because if you listen to it, just time stretch like this, and then bounce it down. It uses a slightly different algorithm in Sonar. Obviously, some of this stuff is specific to Sonar, but you can use the same techniques in different DAWs, 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 however you pronounce it. So, don't hold your breath. And then, as you can see below it, if we move this one back, this is simply the same thing with some effects applied, the crushing, and a heavy delay. So heavy that you can't hear the original source sound. So it's simply the delay, so that way you get the original sound there and then the delay from this channel. That's a really cool way of delaying only a single word in a sentence. For instance, if you delayed the whole thing, it would end up sounding like this instead. Don't hold your breath. You got that yip breath, instead of just the breath. Next up, it's been a long time coming, but now we're here. This next part, in the drop, I just cut up the first verse from Skyline. Well, in this version, I stuttered it like this. Got a bit of time stretching on that blast there, and then it's stuttered here, just by cutting and then click drag, obviously with a smaller grid mode, 16ths, but I decided to do that live on the remix, so I've just exported the blast. It's been a long time coming, but now it's here, and the time stretched blast as well, because I don't think there's a way to time stretch with the Chaos Pad, though I may be wrong. Nice bits of stuttering there, and next up we've got the second verse, which I put in this second drop.
The final stretch was the final straw. Your final fight,
just before the second drop, rather. I've used some distortion and a bandpass filter. Camel Fat's a great plugin for that, just to give that a bit of grit, a bit more cutting. And I exported that part and that part separately, just so I had more to do, and the ha and the I might go as well as separate parts. So those were all exported separately. Then as you can see at the end here, I've actually got a high pass filter on that one, but I just used the low pass filter and the beat repeat, because fortunately they were on the same patch on the Chaos Pad, to mimic that in the live setting. For the chorus, there's two different choruses, or two different versions of the chorus. This one is low pass filtered with the bandpass filter, bit of resonance to give it that underwater feel and stuttering. And the first one has heavy bit crushing and chorus on it, and then it opens up to a live kind of a more natural sounding one, which is this, which is just those EQ settings, bringing up the airiness of the vocal and a bit more body in the main area where they're hitting. And if we just take a listen to this one, we've got the EQ here. If we turn that off, in here it's just a little bit brighter with it, and then the delay heavily on there, filtered delay. I usually cut off a bit of the top and the bottom frequencies. This poppy filtered delay effect, it's quite heavily applied, 33% there, reasonable feedback, so it echoes out quite a lot. That just gives it that huge anthemic feel. Okay, down the bottom here, if we take a listen, we've got a go, which is used periodically throughout the track, and then again we've just got this delayed version of it down the bottom, because I think earlier on I was thinking about using it as let's go, and go was the only word I wanted to echo out, so then I just copied and pasted that throughout the track, just the end part there. Just got the get ready, which I actually had on the CDJ, because I do that with scratching live when Yomotami play, so I had it there conveniently already. But then I chucked on get set now let's go onto the MPC, and again that's just a bit of EQ and limiting as well, with a tiny bit of delay, but the massive delay with the full mix and the factor 1 echo, lots of feedback. Again, got some filtering and a bit of diffusion as well, which just makes it wider, and it's synced with the BPM of the song, which is 127 in this case. Had to speed all these up. I actually sped them up in record. I found that was the best way to do it, chucking all the samples in there at 120 BPM, then upping the tempo, and then bouncing them all down, then importing them into Sonar. You'll probably need to do something like that as well if you're going to do a remix with Skyline's stems. So, the vast majority of it is limiting and delay, bit of EQ, some bandpass and low pass filtering, and a nice bit of bit crushing and chorus from the effects tricks there, amongst other effects. Then I cut all of these up as necessary and put them onto the MPC, so let's show you what I did there. So, the next step was to put everything onto an SD card and go over to the MPC.